Okay, so we are continuing with perspective drawing. We did number 1 on page 63, and today we're going to look at number 2 on that same page. All right, so you can see what it looks like. We had already done this in isometric projection, so it looks very similar, but the only difference is that we have two vanishing points. So we have looked at one perspective or 1 point perspective. This time we're going to look at 2 point perspective. So as you can see, we have a right vanishing point and a left vanishing point. So I'm going to be doing this video in two parts. The first part is going to be the setup, the general setup of this, because the actual drawing is going to take some time. That's going to be a longer video, so I will leave that for part 2. But in this video, I'm just going to show you how to do the setup, where I'm going to show you how to establish your vanishing points, how to establish your ground line and your true vertical line, and also the object plan. Now, this is one of the things that we did not include in the 1 point perspective, but it is very important to include this in the 2 point perspective. All right, so here it goes. So just by way of measurements or dimensions, um, the vanishing points, I set them to be 200 millimeters apart. I set the angle of the object plan to be an actual 30 degrees on both sides, just as we would normally do isometric projection. All right, now there are other examples where you can set 60 degrees on one side and 30 degrees on the other side, but just for simplicity, I just chose to keep it at 30 degrees on both sides. All right, the true vertical, this is the actual vertical line or the point that is closest to you. So all of our measurements are going to be taken from this true vertical line, and then it's going to be wrapped around the perspective drawing. The other thing you need to take into account is that all points on the left-hand side are going to be connected to the right the right vanishing point, and all points on the right-hand side are going to be connected to the left vanishing point. Now I can show you this quickly before we start. For example, this point is going to pass straight through. As you can see, everything that comes along this line, I can zoom in so you can see everything that comes along this point, for example, this point here and this point here, all of them are connected to the same left-hand side vanishing point. And the same thing goes for points on this side. For example, this point here connects to the right vanishing point. And as you can see, if I zoom in, this point, and this point all come along the same straight line, which connects to the same vanishing point. So the horizontal lines do not change. All right, everything that comes on the same straight line, it will appear the same even on a perspective drawing, because in examples that we looked at where you are standing at the edge or the beginning of a highway or a stretch of road, all the bottoms of the poles end up on the same straight line, all the tops of the poles end up on the same straight line. So it doesn't make this drawing any different. All right. So let's go ahead and do our initial setup. So as I said, I'm going to be looking at the ground line. I'll show you how to set it up. The actual or the true vertical line, the left and right vanishing points, and also the object plan. So this here is what we were missing from our 1 point perspective drawing the last time. So this part is going to take some time. You have to know how to do the orthographic projection of these. Now we have already done so. So it is not anything difficult. I'll just show you how to do this one in particular very quickly. Okay, so let's move this over to the side, and what we're going to do, I'm going to draw a line to represent my two vanishing points. I'm going to measure that to 200 millimeters. So, so for example, I'm just going to show you where my actual vanishing points are by just marking them with a circle. And I'll just measure that circle to be 10. Okay, that's a bit too big. So I'll use 5. I'll use 5 millimeters as my radius. Okay, so 5 millimeters and the same 5 millimeters on this side. So these are my two vanishing points, and they are 200 millimeters apart, just for example. Now you can set your vanishing points to any measurement that you want, but just for this particular drawing, we are going to set our vanishing points to 200 millimeters apart. The next thing we need to do is to establish where our true vertical line is going to appear. Now, for our purposes, I just set it at, okay, let me remeasure it so I can just make sure. So the true vertical line is 88 millimeters away from my right vanishing point. So I'm going to draw a line initially. Okay, let me change my layer first. And I'm going to draw a line which measures, well, no special measurement yet. I can always extend it afterwards. But this now I can move, I'm going to move it over to 88 millimeters. So I'm going to click on this grabbing point here. I'm going to shift it over to the left, and I'm going to type in the measurement 88, enter. And as you can see, it's been put into position. And all I'm going to do, I'm just going to lengthen it just to make it a bit longer. I grab this handle here. I don't grab it yet. I put my mouse over it. Then I go to lengthen, and I'm going to just bring it down a little further. Now the ground line is 100 millimeters. Let me just double check. Okay, so the ground line is 100 millimeters away from my vanishing point vertically. So all I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this line and I'm going to offset it to 100 millimeters. So I'm going to type in my 100, enter, and there we have our line. So this is going to be my ground line. The next thing I have to do is to establish my object plan. So I'm going to draw this according to the measurements that are in the textbook. So my true vertical line, in fact, my drawing, as you can see if I zoom in, it stems away from my true vertical line. So my true vertical line is in the middle, and I have 30 degrees on one side and 30 degrees on the other side. So I'm going to start by doing that. And my measurements on the left and the right, according to the textbook, are 64 millimeters and 60 millimeters respectively. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this line. But let me change it to blue construction lines. So from here, I make sure my polar tracking, again, my polar tracking is set to 3060. So I can go ahead and type in my 64 millimeters here, enter, press enter again to draw a new line. Make sure it's set to 30 degrees, and I'm going to type in my 60 millimeters according to my measurement. Now I'm only doing the plan of the drawing. I'm just going to show what the drawing looks like from the very top. I'm going to draw in the plan view of that drawing. So I'm not going to do the elevation, whether it be the front or the left. I'm only going to do the plan view. So the only measurements I have to put in there is what I'm going to see from the top. So the next thing I do, I just complete my my rectangle by typing in the same 64 that I did at the front here. And I just close my drawing and I press escape. So this is what I did here. Now all I have to do is to draw in these internal parts. So I'm going to do that. This measurement is, according to the book, is 12 millimeters. So I'm going to just draw this line 12 millimeters and I'm going to stretch it all the way across so that I can just do both sides one time. So I click on line, I click here, then I go this way, 12 millimeters, enter, and I'm going to go across using the same 30 degrees, sorry, and I'm just going to click at the edge of this line to show that I have completed this portion. The next thing I need to do is to do this gap here. So this gap is according to the measurements. Well, it's actually not there, but when you work it out, it actually works out to be 20 millimeters. Okay. In fact, let me not do that part yet. Let me just work from the back and come forward so that whatever is left is going to be my measurement. So I'm going to work from the back here, which is 16 millimeters, which is this short line here. Then we have another 16 millimeters, which is this short line here. So going back to my drawing from here, I click on the corner, I type in my 16 millimeters, then I go across to complete, enter, then I go again and I do another 16 millimeters going down this way. Make sure you have the right angle before you type in your measurement. 16 millimeters, and then I go across this way. All right, and all we are missing to do is to do these two boxes here. This box is 16 millimeters from the corner on both sides, and then this line, well, it is the same 16 millimeters. So after I do this 16 millimeters, I'm just going to come down this way. When I do this 16 millimeters, I'm going to come down this way. All right, so going back, let me start from here. 16 millimeters. I come down this way until I see the X pop up, the intersection object snap. I click, enter, press enter again to draw a new line. And this time I'm going to start from the corner here, 16 millimeters, enter, and I make sure I have the correct 30-degree angle, and I click here, and that would be my top. So all I'm missing to do here now is these two lines in the center here, which are 20 millimeters. This line here is 20 millimeters away, and this line is also 20 millimeters away. So I can go back to my drawing, click on line. Okay, it's on the wrong here. Let me just fix that up. Okay, and just make sure everything is in line. Okay. So now I can do my 20 millimeters going this way, 20. Then I come down until I see my X, enter, press enter again. From here, 20 millimeters. Then I come down to complete. Okay, so now we are done with our object. Well, we can trim out these gaps here on this side by just selecting our entire drawing, click on trim, then we select what we want to get rid of, and that is it. Now we can also get rid of this part because it's not included. We can get rid of these as well, although I included it in the other drawing, but that was my mistake. So I'm also going to trim out these two portions there. Okay, so that is it for the setup. Now, what is important about having this here, I will just show it to you in this video at least, and then I'm going to continue by drawing in the perspective drawing. What is important about this object plan here is that it helps you to get your other measurements. So apart from your heights, you're going to get your plan measurements. So let me just show you how you can get that quickly. If I bring, for example, this point down, you can see that it is in line with the bottom here. Okay, well, not quite. I think I made a little mistake. Let me just double check. Okay, I made a mistake. This is supposed to be 12, and it's actually 13. So I probably made a slight mistake, but that can be fixed very easily. But just to show you that everything is supposed to be in line. So if I come over here and I bring this line down, you would realize that it is in line with this edge here. Okay, another example, I bring this line down. As you can see, it is in line with this edge. So that is to show you that we can use our measurements in our object plan and project it down to our perspective drawing to ensure that everything ends up in, well, being the correct measurement. Because with the 1 point perspective, we did not have the privilege or the luxury of having all of these measurements. So we basically had to guess our way through. But this time we have our object plan to work with, which is at the same incline as our perspective drawing. So that means everything should line up. Okay, so that is it for our setup. So in the next part of the video, part 2, we're going to work on the perspective section or the perspective part of it, where we are going to connect all our right hand points to our left vanishing point, and we're going to connect all our left hand points to our right vanishing point. So that is it for this part. Stay tuned for part